Hey guys, I'm Anne. I'm the lead student minister here at Traders Point, and I'm sitting down today with my friend Monica. Monica, give us a little wave.
Hey.
Yes. Monica Hengge owns a counseling practice in the Indy area called Thrive Point, and we are friends from college, so we go way back. And Monica has a lot of experience working with teens and families and adults and couples. And so we wanted to sit down and talk to Monica over the next couple of weeks just to get some of her perspective of what she's seen right now in teens and get some help. Both for young people and for their parents, because believe it or not, your parents have never been in this situation either. And so today we're going to talk specifically about, Monica, what you're seeing with young people and how they can cope and thrive during this really weird time that no one expected. And so I think I'll just start with this. What is different about teens right now and how they are being impacted by the coronavirus versus, say, their parents?
Yeah, sure. So right now is really tough on teens because developmentally they are supposed to be doing a few things to prepare to eventually leave home. And so first teens, like when you're younger, your parents or your caregivers, they were your buffers for stress. So if you fell down, they would give you a big hug and they would absorb a lot of the hard stuff in life for you. But as you go through adolescence, we learn to depend on our peers for support to help us handle the hard stuff in life. And that's absolutely necessary for us to eventually leave our parents and go out into the world and even find a spouse. So this is super important for you guys to do. But with these social distancing rules, the people you rely on for that job, each other, aren't there, at least not in person. And it can feel really overwhelming and frustrating not to have those important relationships in your life. The second part of adolescence that you guys are going through right now is you're in this process of developing your identity. So, who you are and what you're passionate about and who you're actually becoming. So, your brain is moving from generalized learning to specialized learning as you begin to find your passions in life and develop this sense of who you are. And this is a time to find things you really love doing. But this involves something called a pruning process, which means you use it or you lose it. Since we have had to stay at home over the past month and a half, you're really susceptible to losing the things you were passionate about before. So if you like sports or art or singing or writing, you have to continue doing those things, or to establish the brain circuits, or you'll lose it. So here's what's really tough right now. The social distancing and the stay-at-home orders are putting a lot of you at risk of losing it. So the current situation is making achieving some of these developmental milestones really challenging. Not impossible, but challenging.
Whew.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot.
It is. So how do they navigate this? I mean, that is a lot to process of okay, I'm at risk of losing a lot in my brain. How do we
Yeah, and
navigate this?
it can feel super scary when I say that, but that's neuroplasticity. We when we do something, we make that more ingrained. When we don't do something, we can lose it, but that doesn't mean we actually will lose it forever. So one word that I would say to remember is engagement. We have this choice every day to engage or disengage in your own experience in life, in your relationships, and even your problems. So when I say engagement, disengagement looks like prolonged inactivity, or pushing others away, or numbing out using screens, even disengaging through distraction and busyness, trying to distract your mind or staying busy. Engagement, on the other hand, can pull you into deeper, more meaningful relationships and a more meaningful life. It can pull you into more creative problem solving and ultimately become more resilient. I think when we look back on the generation of teens going through this time right now, like we're going to look back and we're going to say, wow, like look how they came through this. Like look how
Mhm.
resilient they
Mhm.
are. Like it's an opportunity for you guys to really flex your creative problem solving muscles.
So talk to me a little bit about what does it look like to engage your own experience? Like you talked about disengaging and some of the practical things. So what does it actually look like to engage with your own experience?
Yeah,
Flesh that out
that,
for me a little bit.
that's a great question. And so we're all having like all sorts of feelings as adults too right now, because like you said, parents, right? We're trying to figure all this out too. But acknowledging your feelings helps to make them more manageable. That's what engagement looks like, acknowledging whatever feelings are coming up for you. Because when we suppress feelings or become fused or entangled with them, they intensify and we get stuck in them. So this happens because God gave us emotions to prompt us actually into engagement, into action. And if you aren't listening to your emotions, then they will get louder and louder in some way or another until we do listen.
That's really good. So what are some ways emotions prompt us into engagement and action?
Yeah, like if you think about it this way, if you're walking down the street and like in the middle of the street and a bus comes hurtling toward you, the emotion of fear will be sent throughout your entire body and you'll jump out of the way. It prompts you into that action. This is because fear prompts us to avoid or move away from a present danger, and that present danger being that bus. So if you can think of a time you felt scared, like what did you feel like doing? Probably like getting out of the way or running from it. Maybe not a bus, but maybe a person or a specific situation. And like when we think about anger, anger is a natural response when we feel that we or the people we care about have been wronged in some way. Um, and anger, it's very similar to frustration. It occurs when we feel like we're being blocked from achieving important goals. So the emotion of anger alerts us to that our boundaries have been crossed, and this motivates us to actually do something to stand up for ourselves. And for example, like I think of all the seniors right now are really angry that proms and graduations have been canceled. Like I feel angry too when I think about it, or even
Mhm.
talking about it right now. I feel like my chest starting to get a little tighter because
Mhm.
feeling angry in this situation lets you know that something is unfair, that seniors should get to experience these like rite of passage events. And this anger will probably prompt the seniors and the adults in their lives to like do something about it, maybe to stand up for themselves in some way or get creative to come up with different solutions. I've heard of like the adopt a senior initiative going on. But I'm really curious at how that's going to play out in the future, like what solutions people are going to come up with, because anger oftentimes gets this really bad reputation because it's
Mm.
often associated with like yelling or breaking things, but it's really important to separate the possible response of the emotion from the experience of the emotion of itself.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about how anger would prompt. Yeah, that's really, really good. Sorry, keep going.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to touch on one more emotion that
Mhm.
probably they're experiencing right now is sadness.
Mhm.
Sadness is that emotion that naturally occurs when we lose something or have this setback. And so sadness signals this need to pull back, to process that loss or that setback. For example, feeling sad about not seeing your friends at school every day lets you know that those relationships were important to you
Mm.
and that you're a healthy teen. Like if you didn't feel sad about not seeing your friends, then that might be a cause for concern. But you're
Mhm.
supposed to be out there exploring the world and learning how to engage in meaningful relationships. But that information that those relationships are important to you would be lost if you felt nothing for those people. Um, that and also sadness is interesting because it signals to other people that we might need support and comfort. Like when someone sees another person who is sad, you want to reach out to them and give them a hug. It actually prompts other human beings to respond to each other in really comforting ways. So don't be scared to show sadness and to reach out for a hug, because these feelings and whatever feelings you're experiencing, like they're messages that they're trying to send you to prompt you into some sort of action.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
so good. And I feel like too, teens and adults, we experience emotions and then we automatically experience an emotion around that emotion. Like I feel ashamed that I feel angry, or I
Yeah.
feel annoyed that I feel sad. Like, why can't I
Yeah.
just get over this? And so
And we call
that's
those
really, really good.
secondary emotions. Like we have these primary emotions that are the response of the stimulus itself, and
Hmm.
then we have the secondary emotions sometimes of the emotion itself that we feel. And it's okay to acknowledge that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really good. So talk to us a little bit about, with some of these social distancing restrictions, how do we engage with other people well? And I know obviously this is ever evolving, as here we are in May, and it looks like that we can start engaging with groups of under 25 with social distancing restrictions in place. What are some ways you would suggest we start engaging with other people? Because I mean,
Yeah.
now we've been shelter in place for a while. And
Mhm.
so for some of us, we might be like desperate to hang out with people, but for some of us, it might be like crawling out of a really dark cave,
Yes. Yeah.
and being like afraid of the sun. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
what would you suggest we do to engage with other people?
Yeah, I would still really encourage everyone to keep engaging in social distancing. And this is where you may have to get creative. So maybe have a coffee meetup with friends over video conferencing. You might not be able to sit down at a table and without social distancing, right? But have a cup of coffee with each other online through a video chat, or utilize online gaming. Maybe even handwrite each other letters and mail them through the USPS, right? There are a ton of obstacles standing in your way of connecting and engaging with others, but I believe in you and I know that you'll get through this difficult time, and maybe even teaching us adults about how to connect with each other better, because I just believe teens are way more creative than we give them credit for.
You guys, yeah, that you
Yeah.
so are. I mean, I know of teens doing way more creative things than adults right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And remember also, teens, to stay engaged with your family. Like face to face time is really important, and your family may be the only option for a little while where you can get close and maybe get that hug, because we're hardwired for those hugs and we're hardwired for connection. And so try to be brave with your family members and get to deeper understanding. Like, I know it can be tough to be maybe confined a little bit more in the house for the past month and a half, right? But practice empathy with the adults and your siblings. Try to identify your emotions or the thoughts that others in your household might be experiencing, and think how you can engage with those thoughts and emotions in kind and caring ways with them.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I think especially too, I think that's the thing I've been wondering the most about is like, okay, we have these digital social ways to connect, but what are we losing
Yes.
by not having any face to face? So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's super important to have physical contact with people. We can't just like wipe that away. We
yep,
need it as human beings. Yeah.
yep, yeah, God made us for it. So, let's end with this. Talk to us about how to make this time meaningful, and then just like practically what we should be doing every day.
Yeah. So I would say that your actions should be guided by your core values. So maybe really think through these types of questions of, like, what do you want to stand for in the face of this crisis? Or what kind of person do you want to be as you go through this? Or maybe how do you want to treat yourself and others? Because your values might include things like love and respect and humor, maybe patience or courage, honesty, caring, openness, right? Like there's so many different kinds of values that you can have, but living out those values is what is super important right now. It's what's going to make this time meaningful in your life. So of course, as the crisis unfolds, there's going to be all sorts of obstacles to achieve those goals. And there's going to be things that you can't do. And there's no simple solutions, but you can still live out your values in a myriad of different ways. So even in the face of whatever challenges you experience. So maybe consider these questions, like what are kind, caring ways you can treat yourself as you go through this?
That's
what
good.
are maybe some words you can say to yourself, or kind deeds you can say to yourself, or kind things you can do for others, or kind things you can say to others. And like, what can you say and do? This is a big one. What can you say and do that will enable you to look back on this time in years to come and feel proud of your response? And however you answer that question, go do that.
That's really, really, really good. We'll write out those questions for everybody, because those are so good. You could even write those like on a mirror and just look at them every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, what should they plan to do every day?
Sure. Every day, I would say plan your day. It doesn't need to be like the stringent plan, but you need some sort of routine or schedule, even in the summer, because it's super easy to get down and then not do anything. And not doing anything and disengaging actually makes us feel more down. And then we can get stuck in this spiral of, I don't feel very good, so I'm not going to do anything. And now that I'm not doing anything, I don't feel very good. And so it just like continues to spiral down and down. So plan it your day every day. Make sure you're moving every day. Like physical exercise is actually really good for your brain and mental health. And is a protective factor against anxiety and depression, though I know like it's hard to have some sort of routine to exercise. It's not all of us love to exercise, right? But it's
even just moving, like it doesn't have to be a run on a treadmill, even just getting around and moving.
Go out for a walk, do a couple sit-ups, right? Like just get up and walk around.
Just a couple.
Yeah, I said just a couple. Yeah. That's it.
That's awesome.
Yes. And then like also find ways to connect with somebody at least once a day. Like I said, we're created for this connection. So reach out and be real with each other. So if things are really tough, tell each other. You're probably not alone, and other people, like your friends, are probably feeling the same way. And I know that feels vulnerable probably to reach out to somebody and say like, hey, things are really tough right now. But like Brene Brown says, vulnerability is the bridge to connection. So, and then even if you're doing okay, like if you're on the other side of things, you're like, actually, I'm doing pretty okay. Make sure that you're being kind to each other and serving each other too. So what I mean by this is if somebody texts you, think about what they might be thinking or feeling. Why did they text you? Probably for connection. So be attentive to that and show up for them. Don't give them one-word answers or like brush them off. Really be loving and attuned to them and practice like that service and love. So it's also super important. This is the last thing maybe that I would say is to, it's okay to spend time alone in solitude too, to not be constantly connecting, and to reflect on your own experience. So, and a part of this process means showing yourself compassion, like to say, hey, it's okay for me maybe to spend some solitude or time alone, or it's okay that this is hard right now. This means like asking yourself if somebody I loved was going through this experience or feeling what I'm feeling, and if I wanted to be kind to them or caring towards them, what would I do? How would I behave, or what would I say to them? And treating yourself in the same way. So the main thing, remember to reach out for help, to connect with each other, to be with each other. You weren't designed to navigate this time alone, because how you overcome some of these obstacles might be reaching out to your peers, to youth leaders, and to even your parents. So don't isolate, don't disengage, keep staying engaged.
That's really, really good. Thanks so much, Monica. This has all been super helpful. And if you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or send us a DM, or if you just want to hear more, we would love to hear from you. So we'll be back next week talking specifically to parents, and we'll see you then.